Meanwhile, the Ukrainian armed forces are methodically and decisively bringing Crimea back home. For example, in temporarily occupied Sevastopol, it was reported that one of the longest attacks on military targets took place. Additionally, fighters from the Special Operations Forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine destroyed storage sites for the Russian Iskander missile system on the temporarily occupied peninsula. And by the way, this week the disgraceful mishap known as the Kerch Bridge was once again shut down. Here are the details.
Crimea is rumbling again. Explosions at military sites, drones over the peninsula, and Russian air defenses hit.
It's driving right next to it.
Ukraine is reducing Russia's ability to use Crimea as a military staging ground.
Yes to the oil depot, but...
What is this? Are these just strikes, or is this the beginning of the peninsula's return? On the night of February 17th, the governor of Sevastopol announced one of the longest attacks on the peninsula. That same night, the Crimean bridge was closed with hundreds of cars stuck in traffic jams and trains delayed.
There hadn't been any random attacks on Crimea since 22. These operations were meticulously planned and highly deliberate in nature. And now, when precision strikes are being actively carried out on specific targets in Crimea, we perceive them much more within the broader strategic context of the first line of defense for those targets. In the Caucasus.
Right in the heart of Russian military infrastructure, the Iskander missile depot in Pasechnoye was destroyed by Ukrainian Special Operations Forces.
First, there are fixed stationary targets, which are subjected to continuous around-the-clock surveillance, and frequently end up being the ones that get hit the most often. On the other hand, there are also targets that are highly mobile and only exist on a temporary basis. Calculating, planning, and executing an operation precisely is the most difficult task.
A flash, then a column of smoke. Over the past week, the Ghost struck an anti-aircraft missile and gun system, the Pantsir S-1, the Nebo-U radar system, and the BK-16 landing craft. Now all of that is just scrap metal, what's left of such valuable Russian equipment.
A comprehensive system designed for monitoring surface and air situations is a vital and absolutely essential component of situational awareness at sea and in the air. This is precisely why radar stations are always considered such primary and high-priority strategic targets. First, there are the radar stations. Second, after them come the air defense systems. Then comes the breakthrough of the defenses.
But now, even the most heavily protected airfields in Crimea are no obstacle for the Ukrainian armed forces. This time, on January 20th, the airfield in Jankoy came under attack, specifically its control tower building. But that's not all, because earlier equipment worth hundreds of millions of dollars was destroyed at the airfield in Sevastopol. In particular, a Russian transport aircraft which was simply standing there waiting until a Ukrainian drone arrived. Crimea is a key military base and logistics center for Russian forces, and it is from there that attacks on Ukraine are most often launched.
Aviation is important from both sides. First, aviation serves as an element of air defense. This is the first echelon of the enemy's air defense. Second, these are the Russian aggressors who are currently destroying our innocent cities. Well, and now they are finally receiving exactly what they rightfully deserve.
Under the strikes of air defense, radars, airfields, military bases, and naval equipment. This is no longer a one-time action, but a systematic weakening of the Russian military infrastructure on the peninsula.
As long as the forces of the Russian occupation from our occupied Crimea continue to attack our Ukraine, it is only natural that they will face a powerful and justified response.
Another question is why Russia, for some reason, is not actively defending even its most important equipment and military facilities. Could it be that their so-called unparalleled air defense can't cope?
They're removing them from Kamchatka, from Sakhalin and Primory. They are taking systems that were on active combat duty and moving them to our Crimea. They deploy them, but while they were hauling them over, our defense forces struck. So they brought them here, set them up, and now we're preparing for the next strike. That means we need to destroy new Arctic Gorkas. First, in order for the strike to be successful.
Crimea remains Russia's key staging ground for strikes against Ukraine. And the more actively it's used, the more often it becomes a target. And now the question isn't just whether there will be new attacks, but how long Crimea can remain Russia's main military hub.
Meanwhile, Belgorod is begging Putin to stop shelling Ukrainian energy infrastructure, since every such attack is mirrored back onto the residents of the Russian regional center near the front line. For making such a request, Governor Gladkov has already been called a traitor by Z propagandists. More details in our report. This will be a very telling story.
The ice has started to move. Officials from Russian regions are urging Putin to stop bombing Ukraine because every strike brings retribution.
Look, over there.
Everything is on fire! Yeah, I see it. The governor of Belgorod couldn't hold back his emotions because of the shelling the city is being subjected to.
Vyacheslav Vladimirovich did not expect such a strike. When the power went out, he started shouting. He said something like, "We've been abandoned, the authorities are bombing Kiev, but for some reason, we're the ones being hit in return." He promised to call the Ministry of Defense and the Kremlin and demand that air defense systems be transferred to the Belgorod region straight from Moscow. I don't know if he actually called. But seeing the governor like that was sad and painful.
Moreover, this statement wasn't made in a kitchen but in front of his colleagues. Of course, there were vigilant citizens, informers, who immediately reported the governor's words to the higher-ups. A response from above came without delay.
These are of course the words of a traitor, but we will find out whether Gladkov actually said them and take action if necessary. That was the Kremlin's reaction.
Gladkov's words reek of treason and are unacceptable. No wonder the Russian leadership was alarmed, because until now, none of the high-ranking officials had ever dared to publicly criticize the Kremlin's actions.
The governor's emotions, I understand. He definitely said too much, but it happens. But we must not forget what's important. We are fighting for victory in the special military operation, and for that, sometimes sacrifices must be made, for example, a comfortable life. And the Belgorod region is the front line of our confrontation with the enemy. That is why we all hope that Gladkov will calm down, and that his region, together with the rest of Russia, will continue this difficult but absolutely necessary struggle.
The boomerang effect worked instantly. The war has come to Russia. This has directly affected the officials themselves.
No one feels Moscow's involvement in the affairs of Belgorod residents. There is a sense that the governor, yes, the regional authorities are sort of with us. They're also in a way experiencing the blackout. And the governor is actively selling this idea to the people. He says, "I also got stuck in an elevator during the blackout."
The governor is showing his concern that he can no longer solve the region's problems himself.
The actions our energy workers and heating specialists have taken over the past 2 days have not yet led to the long-awaited result. So, by no means are we making excuses, but I'm simply explaining the technological complexity of the current situation.
Gladkov even announced a partial evacuation of residents due to problems with water, electricity, heating and communication, and constant alerts.
In order to save the entire system, shutdowns are taking place. The shutdowns last from 2 to 4 hours. I'm confident that in the near future, the number of such shutdowns will decrease.
Due to damage to the infrastructure, the situation in Belgorod now resembles the situation in Kiev and in other cities of Ukraine that are being mercilessly bombed by the Russian army.
The Russian army has carried out a massive strike with high-precision weapons on Ukraine. There are serious heating problems in the cities. It's minus 26 degrees in Kiev right now.
There are rumors that the governor of Belgorod region has repeatedly asked Moscow for additional air defense systems to protect the city. However, the Kremlin replied that this was not possible.
Blackouts. Electricity is supplied intermittently only for a few hours a day. People are left without electricity, heat, or water.
Well, do you understand what's going on here or not? Does anyone understand this? What happened? Why is all this happening?
It is precisely because of the Kremlin Tower's complete lack of response that Belgorod is freezing without heat or electricity. You didn't trade at the window, but with hardships. They don't think about people at all. Not only is there no air defense, but they've also been deprived of communication means. And here Gladkov showed up again. Telegram has been slowed down across all of Russia. Accordingly, it doesn't work in the Belgorod region either. Gladkov's Telegram channel has become the main source of information for residents on safety issues.
I'm concerned that slowing down the Telegram channel could affect the delivery of operational information to you if the situation worsens. We'll get it to you. They intercepted the region.
Power and heating outages in the Belgorod region began after strikes on the energy infrastructure in early February.
And that's how it is in Belgorod every couple of hours.
After the shelling of the Luch CHP, Belgorod CHP and the Frunzenskaya substation, thousands of homes were left without utilities. The restoration of the city's energy system did not yield the desired results. Years of wear and tear on the pipes made themselves felt, so they began draining water from the systems. After his frank criticism, Gladkov may become not only a traitor in the eyes of the Kremlin elite, but even an English spy or a foreign agent. How many more members of the elite are there who, to put it mildly, are tired of the ongoing hostilities and will start to speak out? The question remains open.